Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We're from group 1 and I as a moderator for this group. Today first of all we're gonna say thank you for the opportunity to be right here right now, and honorable mention for from Member Hayu Milisari, of course. And now I'm gonna explain the material about how important the English literature in ELT. The first material will be explained by me. The and the second, third, or and last material will be explained by my partner, also on the group. Okay. First material is the thing is the title is the definition of literature in ELT. The use of literature in ELT classroom is enjoying a revival for a number of reasons. Having formed part of traditional language teaching approach, literature become less popular when language teaching and learning start to focus on the functional use of language. Jadi di sini literatur itu dapat diartikan sebagai sumber ataupun acuan yang dapat digunakan dalam berbagai macam aktivitas. Contohnya kalau di dunia pendidikan atau aktivitas lainnya. Literatur juga dapat diartikan sebagai rujukan yang digunakan untuk mendapatkan informasi tertentu. Jadi di sini tuh literatur dapat berupa buku ataupun berbagai macam tulisan lainnya kayak frase, apa ya nyebutnya, apa ya, banyak deh contoh-contoh lainnya. Okay, I'll be back with English sentence. Using literature as a resource offers teacher possibilities for basic language learning activities on material that can stimulate greater interest and involvement. That is the case with other texts. Jadi di sini tuh tujuan dari literatur tuh untuk membantu siswa atau membantu pengguna menemukan informasi yang mereka butuhkan. Terus tuh banyak tujuan yang lainnya seperti melengkapi informasi atau mencari informasi tambahan yang belum pernah, maksudnya belum kita temukan dari tempat-tempat lain gitu kan. Jadi buku ataupun beberapa contoh tulisan lainnya kayak frase atau frase atau kelas apa itu ya, clause nyebutnya, I don't know how to speak in Indonesian. I'm sorry. Back. Dan kayaknya yang terakhir tuh untuk memperkuat informasi yang dihasilkan oleh analisis atau hipotesis. Mungkin dari penjelasan yang saya berikan cukup sekian, dan penjelasan selanjutnya tentang elements of literature in ELT bakal disampaikan oleh Yesa. Jadi thank you, and the time will be take by Isa. Thank you.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Yesta Patricia. I will continue the explanation of the material from B, element of how important learn literature in LT. Element of how important learn literature in LT divided into 6 parts. First, A. Definition. What do we mean by the phrase element of literature? The phrase element of literature refers to the consistent part of a work of literature in whatever form it takes: poetry, prose, and drama. B. Plot. Plot refers to all related things that happen in the sequence of the story. The shape of the plot comes from the order of disease, even and consistent of several distinct aspects, the way all look at in turn. The plot comprises a series of cause and effect, even the reader from the story beginning, through the middle to the story ending took some time. The chronological order is played with 4 dramatic effects. On the first, exposition, 2, conflict, reaching action, climax, falling action, and the last, resolution. Part of C, setting. A setting consists of two key elements, space and time. Space refers to the where of the story, most often the geographical location where the action of the story takes place. Time refers to the when of the story. Could be a historical period, the present, of the future. The setting has often aspect for the reader or writer to consider. For example, drilling down from the broader time and place, elements such as the weather, culture content, physical surroundings, age can be important. Part D, character. Uh, A story character are the source of the action. Character most often take human form, but on occasion, a story can employ animals, fantastical creatures, and even inanimated objects as character. Some characters are dynamic, unchanged over the course of a story. And now, let's look at some of the most important of these. At first, protagonist. The protagonist is the story main character. The story plot center around this character who are usually sympathetic and likable to the reader. That is the are most often the hero of the story. Uh, Two, antagonist. The antagonist is the bad guy or girl of the piece. Most of the plot action is born of the conflict between the protagonist and antagonist. Next, plot character. Plot characters are one-dimensional characters that are purely functional in the story. They are more a sketch than a detailed portrait, and they help move the action along by serving a simple purpose. We earn afforded much insight into the interior lives of such character. The last character is rounded. Unlike plot characters, rounded characters are more complex and drawn in more detail by the writer, as well as being described in accomplished physical detail. We will again an insight into the character's interior life, their hope, fears, dream, desire, acts. Part E, point of view. Point of view in literature refers to the perspective through which you experience the story event. There are various advantages and disadvantages to the different point of view available for the writer, but they can all be usefully categorized according to whether they are first person, second person, or third person point of view. Now, let's look at some of the most common points of view in each category. First person, the key recognizing this point of view is using pronouns such as I, me, my, we, us, and our. Next, let's look at the two main types of the first person of view. First person protagonist, first person free, and second person advantage and disadvantage by point of view. As we have mentioned, they are specific, advantage and disadvantage to each of the different point of view. While the third person omniscient point of view allow the reader full access to each character. The third person limited point of view is a great for building tension in a story as the writer can control what the reader know and when they know it. The main advantage of the first person perspective is that it puts the reader into the head of the narrator. This brings a sense of intimacy and personal detail to the story. We have a complete Where to find a few here for future detail. The last part, F, theme. If the plot refers to what happened in a story, then the theme is to do with what this even means. The theme is the big idea explored in a work of literature. Here are some explain of the thematic concept commonly found in literature. Uh, like this, a love, revenge, justice, betrayal, jealousy, and forgiveness. Maybe no explanation from me. The next material will be continued by my friends. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Monica. In this part, I'd like to give a material about genre of literature. Genre is a broad term that translates from the French to mean kind or type. In entertainment, this can translate to horror, romance, science fiction, etc. In general, this type differ for all sorts of reasons. From the action in their plot to the feelings they elicit from the audience. However, in literature, there are some more defined genres. It is important to know which genre a piece of work falls into because the reader will already have certain expectation before he even begins to read. Genre is a broad term refers to any works that share certain characteristics. If enough characteristics are in common, then the pieces are said to be in the same genre. In literature, there are four main genres to help the reader focus their expectation for the piece, though these genres can be broken down even further. The first one is types and characteristics of genres. Poetry. A main literary genre is poetry. Our poems share specific characteristics. For example, poetry is written in lines and stanzas instead of sentence and paragraph. Some poems follow strict rules as to the number and length of lines and stanzas, where many poems are much more free-flowing. Is usually shorter than the other genres, but some poems are classified as epic poetry, which is long narrative poetry, chronically heroic deeds and serious subject matter. For example, John Milton's epic poem Paradise Lost focus on Satan fall from grace and his following for sake of revenge. And next to the types and characteristics of genre fiction. It's not the only genre that can utilize figurative language. Similarly, fiction, which is any work written in prose that is not real, can also use elaborate figurative language. Fiction is much more structured than poetry. It must be written in sentence and paragraph with all the proper punctuation and grammar, which makes it prose. Usually fiction is broken up into chapters as well. And 3. Literary genre further exploration. This lesson explains what literary genres are and the four main types: poetry, fiction, non-fiction, and drama. Now it's time to challenge yourself with more activity that will make this lesson memorable and useful. And the last one is quiz yourself. Now that you know the four main literary genres, test yourself to see how much you can remember. Write down the title of at least 5 works in each genre. Use the example given or find books in your house from the title of a head and see if you can remember which is which. Come back to this lesson anytime you get stuck. Example: Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Shakespeare is drama. And the next material is explained by Christy.
D. The correlation between ELT. The factor may influence one learning pace and difference. One factor that is often referred to in my students is learned belief. The different beliefs of learn are often said to be an influential factor in their language achievement. Advantages and disadvantages of the learning-based approach to language teaching. A. Advantages of literature in English language teaching. Advantages of ELT have two examples. Number one, Aquanity. Furnace of literature-based interaction usually focus on the importance of using aquatic literature, rather than the candid vanity found in basal textbook and other programs. Books that are written to teach children to read tend to be boring, confident, and less brief than aquatic literature. Aquatic literature can also open doors for students by introducing them to different cultures, social stories, and storylines. 2. Higher level thinking skill. Many teachers choose literature-based instruction because they feel that I address higher level thinking skill that basal level interaction, rather than forcing children to give but answer to basic a question about a story. Literature-based interaction encourages children to think deeply and share their thoughts about a story. Reading authentic literature can improve vocabulary, reading comprehension, reading ability, and language growth. In education, literature-based interaction in much more children interact with the teacher as the familiar or tools, rather than the sakes on the sakes. B. Disadvantages of literature in English language teaching. Finding appropriate to teach can also become a concurrent experience for teachers with group of students who don't read the same level. However, intelligent students choose the end project-based learning can help teacher individual listen for students without wisdom doing too much planning for literature and education. Disadvantages of literature in English language teaching have two examples. Number one, teacher perspective. From the teacher perspective, teaching using a literature-based approach can be more difficult than using another approaches. First time, teacher may find its explicit challenging. Science, literature-based approach internally have less structure than many another approaches. Teacher also may struggle with effortfully assessing a child progress because literature-based interaction is less widely accepted than another form of interaction. Teachers often spend hours choosing literature solutions as well as developing activities and evaluation that reflects the content. Number 2. Scope and questions. Finding appropriate literature solutions that address the skill that students need to learn can be challenging. And finding selection that equality built from one year to the next is virtually impossible. This means that using literature-based interaction may prevent students from building their skill in systematic fashion, and they may miss out on some skill entirely, especially and students expand to the next grade. They will feel a lack of continuity, which can prevent them from growing as read, winters, and thinkers. The conception of material is using literature in all setting is beneficial in assisting students to learn English. Research as well as finding from experience and experiment confirm its advantages. First, it provides acoustic material as model of correct and uprooted from a functions. Second, it after differs as of the language, students are able to distinguish version from a discourse from the dialogue characterization and description of the text. Third, its advocatorial discretion, since literature presents problems faced by human beings. In doing so, students are expected to be aware of not only how to act English controlly and opportunely, but also extermine controlly. Finally, choosing the right material for students with a teaching objective should be taken into consideration to enable using literature in ELT settings successful. Nevertheless, the recent lack of attention to using literature in ELT Indonesian setting requires some points to ponder. One of finding evidence that Indonesian students in general love stories, whatever through reading or hearing them. On the other hand, many English teachers are still far from competent and proficient in using English. Thus, finding empathy that there is a little chance that using literature in illustrating is successful unless the teacher is competent. Therefore, preparing the teacher is a necessary step. Teacher works motivation to self-development as height will give a better version. Thank you for your great listening. My all thoughts we have shall be beneficial for us. And I say thank you so much.